Hello and welcome to the very first of the Basic to Brilliant collection. It's going to be a whole series of videos here that is going to take you from the very basic nitty-gritty details all the way up to being a fantastically confident and brilliant artist. We're going to start with some very basic things about shapes and about some of the pencils and the different tools you can use, and we're going to break down objects into very simple shapes and teach you how to draw. So get a pencil, get some paper. Doesn't matter what pencil it is, doesn't matter what paper it is, just get something and join me. Okay, so we're going to start off and I'm going to break down some of the basics for you with pencils. Pencils seem to be this mystery with, what are all these numbers on the side of pencils? HB, B, 8B, 6B, and it's a very, very basic thing here. And what we're going to look at is we're going to look at this B. If you can imagine, this B is black, okay? And the number is the grade of how black it's going to be. An 8 is going to be the blackest black. And then a 2B is going to be much less of a black. And then an HB is going to be a hard black, which is just a general pencil that you will find in mostly around your house. You'll probably find an HB. They usually come in this form of a pencil with a rubber on the end, or you can get some other simple forms, just like a little HB pencil like this. And most of this kind of thing that you use at school. And then you will go into the numbers more when you start shading and grading your shading as you want. This is a 6B, which will be about a midway. So if you can imagine what a 6B is going to look like that. And if you take an 8B, you will see that it's going to be a much darker. Okay? So you can see how the grade is working down through that. If you were to take an HB pencil, a standard old HB pencil, then you would find that it's almost like a very light gray pencil. Okay? So from that, you can see how the grade is moving up. A bit light there. Moving up through your shades of pencil. Okay? Now, all you really need for these type of lessons is a pencil or a pen. You can use any type of pen you want. You could even draw on an iPad if you wish. I have lots of different pens here. There's like a regular biro. This was just from the bank, and it's just a kind of biro pen. You can draw with that. You can get these kind of graded ink pens, which are called Faber-Castell. And you can see how the very, very fine version there goes all the way up to a very dark version. And these are pens that come in a very clean line. And they're very, very, very popular. And they're very easy to draw with. Very easy to draw. You can also use something like a brush pen, which is basically a brush at the end of the nib. And the ink is inside. And that will give you a much more of a thin and thick and thin and thick. And that will give you a beautiful expressive line. So if you want to draw with one of those, that's also cool. You can draw it very, very, very line. It gives a lovely texture to the pen. Beautiful things. And then just a regular regular biros are just a big biro, the same as the one from the bank. And I love drawing with big pens. They almost never seem to run out. Fabulous. You can draw with a fountain pen. Again, it's a pen with a nib. It has a metal nib at the end, and the ink is inside. You can refill it with cartridges, and that will also give you a very nice, clean drawing line. Very fluent. The only thing with the fountain pen, make sure you don't touch it too quickly after, otherwise you get a little bit of smudging. So if you do draw with a fountain pen, give it a little bit of time to dry. You have markers like the big Sharpie, something like that, and it's just a very big, you can draw with one of those. Or you can draw with one of my favorite, which is one of these. It's a fountain pen. It's a dip pen, and it basically is a nib that is pushed into a wooden holder or a plastic holder, and you dip it into the ink, and you can draw your lines. And the dip pen is one of my favorite because it gives a lot more expression to your drawing and a lot more expression to your line. But all of these type of things you can find on your iPad if you've got an iPad, okay? The only addition to that is probably with these HB pencils. If you do have a pencil, for example, if you're drawing something, and if you do use the end of these rubbers, or these erasers as they're sometimes called, you will find that it will not rub it out, but it will basically smudge it. Now they're very, very low quality. So buy yourself just a little eraser like this, a little rubber, a little square, very cheap, and you will find that it's much cleaner to erase things. Simple. Okay? So there's hundreds of different types of pens, there's hundreds of different types of erasers or rubbers, and there's hundreds of different types of paper. For these lessons, you choose whatever you want, whatever pen, whatever paper, whatever type of eraser, or an iPad, okay? So we're going to start off with a few very, very basics. And some of these basics are extremely important in my way of thinking. You can choose whatever pen you wish. I will choose a biro simply because, or can use a soft 8B, just to say basically so it's clearer for the camera. And what we're going to do is we're going to start holding the pencil lightly, okay? I've seen a lot of people holding this pen so tight, it's like they don't want to let go of it, okay? Now you've got to hold it nice and light, nice and gently. So when you're sketching, your pen is nice and light. And you can sketch. We're just going to try and draw a circle. Just start off with circles, okay? And we're just going to work the pen around nice and gently. Doesn't matter if you go all over the place, doesn't matter. Just kind of working it around until we get to that point. We've got this lovely, soft, almost fluffy feeling to a pen, to a circle, okay? Now once that's there, you can start to come in a little bit more and start to darken it up. When you find where those guidelines, those sketching lines have made things very clear about where you want to put that line. And you can come up and draw a circle. Now I used to spend hours and hours drawing circles when I was a young boy. And you know, I used to put the television on and I'd sit and I'd draw circles. You know, like 11, 12 years old, I'd be sitting drawing shapes, drawing circles. And I would sit for hours using so much paper, drawing circles. You know, loosening my wrist up, softening down my line. So there you have your circle. Now, you can stop these videos at any time and work back through it anytime and just refresh. And so you can kind of get every little nuance in here and every little detail understood. Okay, these basics are going to be taking you to brilliance. Trust me, these basic things might sound like there's not much there, but these are going to take you to understanding some of the very complex things later on in drawing. So that's your circle. Now you can do this with lots of different shapes. You can basically learn to draw a square. Basically, you're putting down your three main lines, which is going to be your box. And just taking that line up a little bit lighter, so you know where the other back is going to be. You can put a dot there if you wish. And then you're going to start, these are all parallel lines. You see how they run parallel? And you're going to very lightly just draw lines that cross them like this. And again, this line and this line will be parallel. Keeping it as gentle and soft as you wish. And drawing that up to the line. Again, trying to keep that line and that line parallel. And that line parallel. And you'll have a box. And it's very important, even if you're sitting at the bus or you're sitting on a bus going to school or or going to work, and just sit and draw your shapes. Just practice drawing shapes, drawing circles and things like that. It's such a valuable asset to your drawing. And we're going to start thinking then from these basic points, we can springboard off and we can start to draw almost anything from very basics. You simply thinking from a circle, we can start to draw faces. We can start to. This is getting incredible from just a simple circle, and you're starting to put a face together. So for now, let's just work on the very simple basics of practicing to circles, and we're going to put a bit of light. Now, the easiest way to think about light, sometimes when you're getting into more complex drawings, a lot of times people get very lost and start saying, well, I'll put shadow on here. And, you know, if you was to draw something that's got 4 or 5 different changes in shapes, and then you start, oh, well, I'll put shadow on there because it looks nice. And then I'll put some shadow on there because it looks nice. And then I'll put some shadow on there because it looks nice. And then I'll put some shadow on there when it looks nice. It might start to look nice at this point, but if you were to imagine a light coming onto that, let's just redraw that again. If you had a light coming onto it, you would absolutely start to think that the light is going to be hitting all of these points and that the shadow is going to be all here. So this is what we're going to be doing with our shapes. We're going to start to get into a point of thinking the circle, and we're going to start to think of adding some shadow to that. And we're basically going to be adding a very dark shadow. Onto the side of a ball. And the same with this. If you can imagine, here is our light. Let's just draw a big lamp there. You don't have to draw this. And basically what this will do is this will remind you where the light is hitting. And if you imagine the light coming off, and what you will find is that your darkest point is going to be here, because that is opposite from where the light is, okay? And same here, opposite again from where the light is. Now, you can imagine also the fact that this is going to bring in a shadow. Now, we're being very, very basic at this point. We're not getting too technical about if it's exactly the right shape for that, but it's a basic idea, and this is where we're going to be starting off with just having the basics and having some fun with it. And there we have very much a feeling of light. Now obviously as the light is going from light to almost black, you will have a middle ground where you will find that it will be a little bit lighter, a little bit darker than the light, and a little bit less than what the shadow is. And you can start to blend them in. And you will start to have a very, very graded feel to your ball. In the same way, if I took this little man here and put him in the light, and you will start to feel that the light is hitting this part and being shadowed on this part. You can see on the camera above, the light is hitting here, and here is very, very shadowed. And that's a very good example. If I turn the face, the light does not change because the light is in one direction, okay? So from that, we can start to move forward. We can start to work on a lot of different things. For this first very, very, very basic lesson, think about your pencils, think about your pens, think about what you would like to draw with. And for this first lesson, I'm just going to leave you with practicing shapes. Now, you might think it's a very simple basic and it's a little bit too simple, but the more you practice doing these shapes, you know, take a triangle and practice drawing your triangles. And all these shapes will come into what we're doing later on in a much more dynamic way, in a much more powerful way. We'll start to think, well, I want to draw this man. Well, this man is only a circle with some squares and you'll be able to break things down very, very, very quickly. Very, very exciting. Okay, so are you ready for this next stage? We're going to be starting to use some of those circles, and we're going to maybe even build a face out of it. Okay, so thank you very much for watching the first stage, and let's go on and see the second stage. Okay, thank you very much.